And this kind of sets up our final act, and this is where everything is crazy, right? And I feel like there's just so much going on. So I'm gonna try to take bits and pieces of this final episode to try to help kind of put everything into perspective for what's going on. So
I mean, mind you, it was a really, really good battle scene. I'll give them that.
Oh, for sure, yes. Like, there's a lot of good things here, and it is very well put together. It's just very bloated with everything that's going on, right? So episode 9, it really starts off where we have this good conversation with Echo and Jinx. And I like this, especially after we saw like episode 7 in this different reality. Echo and Jinx really would have been like a couple, or they would have been together in some type of fashion if their realities were a little bit different. So to see them not really like have that happen, but to see that there is some type of bond there between these two characters, I felt like was nice. And then that's kind of juxtaposed with, as soon as that scene's over, we're just in the middle of combat. Like, we don't see, like, the forces aren't like landing. We don't see anything dramatic. Like, we're just in the fight. And we just kind of see like a whole bunch of random things happen that just don't really have a lot of weight to them, because it just never got the screen time that was needed. So there's this character, his name is Loris, right? Do you remember who Loris is? If I just tell you who Loris is, do you know the name Loris?
No, I don't.
Okay. So Loris, right? So he's the guy that had the shield that was kind of friends with Vi when she was going through all of her weird stuff.
Oh, he was a trainer dude, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he was the big guy. He was the big guy that had the shield and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so that was Loris, right? Now, I'm not the least bit shocked that you don't know the name, right? Because I think his name was only mentioned maybe once or twice before this moment, and like he's up there on the gun and he gets killed. I'm just like, okay, cool, that's whatever, right? Like, I mean, he seemed like a cool character, but I wouldn't know because you never got a screen time to really get to know him.
I mean, but what's weird is that you see him pop up in the background. So you figured, hey, maybe we need to know a little bit more about this guy. But no, he's kind of like, he's kind of like Maddie, really. Like he pops in every now and then, but most of the time he's just like standing in the background, not saying anything.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like they're part of that task force that Caitlin put together. There's another one, the like amphibious looking guy that I don't even remember his name.
I don't think he even has a name, dude.
Yeah,
I don't remember him saying a word.
Into it. Yeah, because it's too hard to keep track of them. But he dies. So just for everyone to be knowing, we're so sorry. Loris got killed. And then Maddie betrays Caitlin, and she's about to kill Caitlin before like Mel uses her shield and reflects the bullet, and Maddie's dead. So Maddie's now gone. That was another one. I don't get what the motivation was behind this. I guess she was like wanted to be with Ambessa. Like I don't know if this. I don't know. What did you pick up anything on that, or were you just as lost as me?
I mean,
was it because like she loved Caitlin and she saw like how like she was never gonna be there, so this was like her way of getting? I don't know. I'm throwing anything.
I'm thinking it's just more the fact that she was just doing her job as a double agent. Kind of like those old school spy movies you used to watch back in the day.
Sure.
It's like it's kind of like, I'll tell you what it is. A part of me was disappointed that she didn't say, "Oh, it's nothing personal; it's just business." But she did say something similar where it's like, well, at least you kept the bed warm or something like that.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you go for with that. I thought the same thing. So, but yeah, like she did it. She was whatever, double agent. I don't think they really kind of set us up for that type of thing, but that happened.
It wasn't fleshed out.
Yes, exactly. But she kind of gets killed, so we lost another character from that team. And things are looking pretty dire for our group, and that's kind of where things typically happen, is where it looks like everything's bad and you're losing the battle. So what happens? You have the reinforcements come in, so you see Jinx and Echo show up, and you see the firelights show up. And then you also see like the people of Zon joining the fight. So it's like, rah, like we're all getting connected now. And we're going to help turn the tides of battle. And all in all, right, you have this going on, and everyone's trying to destroy, or they're wanting to destroy this egg that they think Viktor's in, right? And I say egg, I don't want people to think like he looks like, he's hatching into a chicken or something.
But to be fair, it does look like an egg, so
yeah, it does, right? It does, right? He's just like in this like little ball thing, and lo and behold, like they eventually like are able to destroy it, and no one's in there, and we find out that Viktor's actually like just secretly infiltrated the Hex Gates, and we see he's this is where he confronts Jace. Jace has been in there trying to disable it. And unfortunately, Viktor just has all this power, so it just seems like there's not a whole lot you can do. So we have, I think, kind of this skirmish where you have Kate and Mel. So they're fighting against Ambessa. And like I said, I kind of liked how they did this sequence. And that's one thing I will say. Like, they definitely did the fight sequences really well. They were... I think depicted very well, and you see like kind of Caitlyn, kind of using her kind of like fighting prowess that she got through Ambessa, right? Because Ambessa was the one who's training her, so kind of you see Kate kind of like leveraging her skills there, and Mel's trying to use her magic, but they just can't seem to get the upper hand. But eventually, you see Kate; she kind of sacrifices her eye. To take a blow, to take off these runes, and this allows Mel to kill her mother, but sort of not sort of, right? Because she kind of like, I guess, like uses the black rose, and this brings her into like the weird like magical realm that we've seen. And I guess she betrays the mage that's there, this illusory mage that we've seen before, in order to like bring her mother out. But the mother still dies. But I guess it's to avoid like her being tortured or whatever they're going to do there. I don't know.
Well, a little off topic here. Do we ever find out who that mysterious Black Rose mage is?
So,
because she keeps taking on all these different forms, so we never actually see who she is.
Yeah. So I want to say I saw her get referenced a few times as like this illusory mage. I think eventually, I believe that there was some type of, I think, like name, or they gave some type of, I think, information about the character. But I don't think it was something that was really put into the show, so I didn't really find too much about it.
Because you remember that scene where I think it was like 4 or 5 where Ambessa meets with this old lady, this old witch, and yes. She initially tries to assassinate Ambessa, but then Ambessa and Rick just kind of get the jump on her, and then she ends up getting killed. I wasn't sure if that was like, I guess, a physical manifestation of that mage that we see later on, who ends up killing Ambessa in the train.
So she, from my understanding, is she's able to control people, because that person we see, she's from the Merchant Guild. So that's actually a character that we've seen and interacted with before. But I guess because of this mage, because the mage is like super powerful, like she's able to control or do stuff with people. So I think that even though they don't do a good job of ultimately explaining all of that, that's, I think, what they're going for with this character, is that she's able to kind of control and do stuff. Like, she just has a lot of range with the character. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it really goes into a whole lot. I've seen people like refer to her, I believe, as like LeBlanc, right? Who's like the leader of the Black Rose, who we've seen, but there just unfortunately just wasn't a ton out there that I could kind of see with that. I'm assuming that there's more to come with that, or there's more material that's out there that's going to kind of help explain that. But I don't think the show did exactly a whole lot to flesh that out. But yeah, so that is the Black Rose, LeBlanc, leader, the illusory mage, you know, has some type of abilities like that, but don't ultimately get fleshed out. So you have kind of that part of the battle end where we have Kate and Mel ultimately besting Ambessa. So that kind of like gives us closure for that particular instance. But of course, we also have another big fight that's going on, and that is with Vander. He shows up and he's kind of fully assimilated now, and you know, there's kind of these like sequences that you see where it looks like, for all intents and purposes, like Vander just doesn't have any memories anymore. Like we see, like he kind of has these memories, and you kind of see them burning away, like he's losing those memories. But like, you know, he's attacking Vi and Jinx, and you know, they kind of have all this crazy stuff going on. But we'll save them for the very end because we need to talk about whatever happened with Viktor and Jace, which was really confusing because it felt like we kind of got into a battle of ideals at the end. And I felt like that just muddied more of the show for me, because, you know, you have Viktor who wanted everything to be perfect, right? Like he had this idea of wanting to obtain perfection, or that's how I looked at it. And Jace, he didn't feel like that was necessary or needed, right? He saw that people that were imperfect still had a lot that they brought to the table, which I did enjoy because, you know, Viktor had all of his, you know, physical issues, but Jace never really looked at him wrong like that. So even though I didn't like their kind of like battle of ideology, I did like the idea that Jace, all things being said, even though his character's kind of all over the map in this season, he still ultimately, you know, still cherishes friendship with Viktor. And just because Viktor was, you know, had this like physical weakness to him, it didn't change the fact that that Jace still looked at him in a kind light. But it's murky with everything else. So did you want to add anything to that? I know we're just kind of all over the map here at the ending, but I just feel like they were just trying to they wanted to close so many loops here at the very end.
I mean, they tried to close those loops, but I felt like they didn't do a very good job in closing them because it kind of made you wonder, like, could they have done it a different way? My thing is, is the fact that you have Viktor kind of going for this Ultron look, because when you see him, I mean, my God, like he is like 100 degrees separate from humanity.
Yes.
Like they really want to hammer home the fact that he does not like humanity at all.
Yes.
And to quote Bender Rodriguez, he's going on this mission to kill all humans, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What I also find a bit weird is the fact that it's the fact that we later find out that the person he's been talking to has been Viktor himself,
mm-hmm.
but this is a Viktor who's, I guess, regained his humanity. So I'm kind of wondering, like, what sort of happened in the intermediate period between him destroying the world and then him deciding, oh, well, maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all.
Yeah.
That's what made me, scratch my head, because I'm assuming, like, originally he must have killed Jace and he must have realized, oh, well, yeah, that was my bad. Like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
I want to see if you picked up on this or not, right? Because it's interesting that you bring that up, because there was the scene at the end really stuck with me, right? So you remember at the end of episode 7, right, where Jace is meeting the cloaked figure, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that was Jace that had the hammer, right? That was at the very end.
Are talking about the that rusted hammer that he grabs onto?
Yes, right. The hammer that he uses, because at the end of this when Viktor is like trying to like turn everybody, Jace takes the similar position on top. So I actually think
I did see that. So
okay, yeah,
so,
I thought.
But I mean, that's the thing that kind of confused me, is the fact that is the fact that you've got Jace here, who's sort of frozen in the sort of death position, I guess in the future. But then you have current Jace, who's kind of trying to go back and kind of fix the whole thing. It became one huge mind fuck.
Really. Yeah, yes. There definitely was this interesting thing. I applaud them for wanting to do something unique like that, and I thought that was a very cool touch, if even just not well formulated or put together.
But they overcomplicated it. That's the thing.
Of course,
I
yes,
mean,
yes.
they should follow a very simple rule that all writers need to follow: keep it simple, stupid,
yes,
or keep it super simple. And what they were trying to do here, it was kind of like a chicken or egg kind of thing. And it's like, no, dude, like you're making it way harder than it needs to be.
Agreed. Yes, I will not challenge that at all. So, but it looks like everyone's done. So you got I guess the last person that's here that ultimately plays the biggest role, which to me felt so weird, was Echo, right? Echo, a character that, was there in the first season, right? I mean, not an unknown character. He obviously played some role there. But it felt so weird that he was ultimately the one that is going to save the day, using his little Deus Ex Machina time machine, that is able to kind of sit there and go back, and Echo ends up being, the hero. I guess you could also say, eventually Jace is able to convince Viktor that what he's doing is wrong. So I guess in that sense, you could also maybe consider Jace being the hero. But from a physical standpoint, Echo is the one that ultimately saves the day, which was odd, right? I definitely thought that was weird, but that's ultimately how it ends, where Echo is able to, defeat Viktor. And Viktor and Jace kind of have this weird bonding moment, and they kind of just, zoop out of existence or something. Echo kind of saves the day, and it kind of leads us to kind of the ending here, where all of the entities, right, that are connected to Viktor all kind of are incapacitated now, or falling apart. And you see Vi is there next to Vander, and she's emotional. She can't let him go, blah, 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 blah. And of course, Vander regains consciousness. And because of it, Jinx ends up sacrificing herself to save Vi, in kind of this, very, I would say, touching moment where the sisters she has to kind of let go of her, which I think kind of goes very well with the idea that, Jinx just doesn't feel like there's a way for her to kind of dig herself out of what she is. And, she's done so many bad things. How can you ever recover from all the bad things that you've done? And, she ultimately needs to let go of her sister, in both a physical and I guess a family type of dynamic, as she kind of crashes down with Vander. And that's how it pretty much ends. We do kind of get this little bit of epilogue at the end, where we see, people kind of mourning the loss of all the people that died in this conflict. Yeah, that's the end of it. And what a ride, right? And